In today's show, Sean Highkin is back on the program as we talk about Nasir Little, whether he might be getting a contract extension, and how the rest of the Blazers rotation is likely to shake out this year. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Today, we're talking with Sean Highkin, the author at the Rose Garden Report. If you missed the show earlier this week, Sean was on the program. We talked all about Damian Lillard and Shaedon Sharpe and the additions of Jeremy Grant and Gary Payton. In today's show, we're going to talk Nassir Little and how the Blazers' rotation is likely to shake out. Check it out. Joining me now, Sean Highkin, author of the Rose Garden Report, which also has a podcast element available wherever you get podcasts. Sean, thanks for coming back for another episode.
Thanks for having me back.
Let's just jump right into it. Anfernee Simons is set up for a big season. I kind of feel like we've said this about Ant a lot, and now it's finally real. Like we said it about him after year one. Year two is the year for Ant. Year three is the year for Ant. Year four kind of tempered expectations, and then he took off when there was room for him. Now, year five, he's got $100 million. I mean, it's not all in his bank account yet, but it'll be coming there shortly. What's your confidence level in Anfernee Simons as a number two on a playoff team type of production player?
So the thing that I think would be really encouraging about him is that if you go look at his usage and just how much it went up from the year before, like, so the 2021 season, the COVID year, his usage was like 18% or something when he was on the floor. Last year it was 24. So that's a pretty significant, that's literally a 1/3.
Yeah. 33% jump.
Yeah. And he was still a 40% 3-point shooter.
Yep.
And he's going to have even more open looks because he's actually going to be playing next to Dame for most of the season. I think that, and I wrote about this in the mailbag that came out this morning. It's going to be old by the time this runs.
It's about a week old. You'll find it. Go to Rose Garden.
rosegardenreport.beehive.com.
There you go. Rose Garden Report, Sean Highkin, Google it, you'll find it.
Yeah, it's not hard to find. But I think that, this deal that he just signed could end up being like, it could end up being like a Zach LaVine type of deal that, the one that he signed with Sacramento, where, he signs this 4-year, $78 million offer sheet with Sacramento.
And it's like, whoo, that's a lot.
And the Bulls match, and people are like, he hasn't really done much. And then, the salary, first of all, LaVine keeps getting better, but then also the salary cap keeps going up. And the salary cap is going to keep going up here too, because the last year of that deal where Ant's going to be making $27 million with the 25-26 season, that's going to be the first year of the new TV deal.
Right.
Which is where, they're going to re-up with ESPN and Turner for a ton of money, but then one of the streaming companies, whether it be Apple or Amazon or Netflix or whatever the case may be,
Musk,
whatever, if Elon Musk starts like a media platform or something.
Musk.tv is what they're going to be streaming on.
Yeah. But either way, Ant making $27 million at that point might look like Zach.
Yeah, that might be
$19 million.
That might be like normal starter money by then, right?
It's very easy to see him outperforming this contract.
Yeah, certainly the back half, there's a chance that with the cap jumps and his improvement, he's 23, he's going to be entering
into his prime when this deal is up.
Exactly. So what is this different than Dame and CJ? Is this any different than what we've seen?
I think it is just for a few reasons. One, even with this contract, Ant is making like $10 or $12 million a year less than CJ was.
Yeah, without not even proportionately, just dollar value wise. Yeah,
dollar value plus with the cap. So just from that standpoint, it's not like literally, 2/3 of your salary cap is being taken up by two guys who basically are versions of the same player.
Right.
I think then also you factor in the athleticism, the difference that Ant and CJ have. And, you factor in like Dame and CJ were basically the same age. And so like they basically developed at the same time.
Right.
So it's like with this one, I feel like, you'd be a little bit more optimistic with it because Ant is so much younger. Like he's still, he's shown enough that like he isn't like a project who's 2 years away from being 2 years away and like can't contribute right now. But, he's young enough that he's still like his best years are still ahead of him. And so in 3 or 4 years, when maybe Dame's best years are behind him, Ant is just entering his prime. So I think just on a development timeline standpoint, it makes a lot more sense than Dame and CJ as well as a financial one.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me it feels pretty similar. I think that my optimism is just because I think Ant is a better, more comfortable knockdown spacing shooter, whereas CJ wants to cook. So just like stylistically, when Ant gets the ball, he's comfortable as a catch and shoot guy, where CJ is a really good scorer. Like for my money, I've said this on this pod a bunch, but like CJ's better than Anfernee Simons. But like the skill set isn't the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. And I think Ant's offensive arsenal as just a shooter and a catch and shoot shooter make me think he can be is a better fit because of what he'll want to do. The passing stuff, we'll see. We'll see. When Anfernee Simons was the lead ball handler, he was a willing and very good passer. He hasn't always been that. Hopefully that continues to grow with him, because if he's a better playmaker than CJ and a better shooter, the sort of like whatever the overall 2K ratings talent matter a lot less, because his complementary stuff will fit with Dame better. And it'll fit with everybody better. It'll fit with Josh Hart better. It'll fit with GP better. Like it has a chance. I'm a skeptic by nature, so I remain a little pessimistic about it, but I don't think it's like, I think there, for the reasons you just outlined, plenty of reasons to be optimistic that this is a different version of something that feels similar.
Now, just to be clear, I'm generally a skeptic about this.
You are. I know you are. You're a pessimist at heart, Sean.
Well, no, I mean, on the two different beats that I've covered, if you look at who the two different GMs are that I've spent the most time covering, you have to have a pretty good radar for this kind of stuff. But
wow, I can't believe Garpax just took a hit. It took a hit from deep.
It went from 4 years of that to 4 years of what there was here before Joe Cronin took over. You have to have a pretty good BS detector.
Indeed. Nassir Little looks like he's going to start at small forward.
That would be my guess.
It seems like just fit wise, it makes sense, but is Nassir Little a starting small forward in the league?
I think he can be if he stays healthy. That's been the biggest issue with him. Is
100%.
And the health stuff, he's just been so unlucky with so much different, like, and it's just like what we were talking about with Dame before, where it's not like he has like, oh, he has this knee that he keeps re-injuring, or he has this ankle, or he has this. Like you like go through his career. So before the season, his rookie season, before it got shut down because of COVID, he just wasn't playing very much because Terry Stotts never really played a bunch of rookies. And then in the bubble, Nassir, like the first day of practice, like passes out from heat stroke and misses a couple days. And then he has a concussion and he can't play in the bubble. And then that fall during training camp, he gets COVID and he gets like, this is like before the vaccine is out. So he got like really bad, like COVID, where he lost like 20 or 30 pounds. And it basically took him until the middle of the season to get back into the kind of shape that he needed to be in.
Right.
And then this year, he actually looked like and granted, a lot of the time that this happened was after they had basically pulled the plug on trying to win this season. But, he had developed into a starter. I know Chauncey Billups is a huge fan of his and believes in him. And, we talked earlier about the Blazers bringing in guys who are Chauncey Billups' type of guy and have that dog in him per 36-minute ratio. Nassir Little is definitely a Chauncey Billups archetype of like, the type of guy. And I've actually like different people in the organization that I had talked to after. I mean, this is maybe something we can hit if you want to, but he is eligible for a rookie extension. And I don't know if I want to like speculate on the number, but I did ask somebody after, he had the shoulder surgery, whether the extension, whether that, they would, maybe look to, hold off on that and see if he can stay healthy. And I got the impression that the Blazers feel like he's shown enough that like they are still pretty strong believers in his.
So he's extension eligible. It'd have to be signed before the regular season began. Otherwise, he would enter restricted free agency.
Right.
it makes sense for the Blazers to want to pay him because of all the injury stuff you've seen. I think if I'm Nas's people, I might say, let him play, let him have his best year he's ever had. Like Nassir Little can go make money this year. I
actually think his side might be open to an extension.
Long-term money.
If they can agree, I think if they can agree on a number, I have no idea what this number would be, but like,
give me a guess because I have a number in my mind. Let's see, where are you at?
I don't know, like 12, 15 a year.
Yeah, I was going to say 4 for 60. So yeah, 15.
Somewhere around there. If they can agree on a number that they both feel like is like, if he does, stay healthy, then he's making quality starter money. But if he doesn't stay healthy, it's not like they're completely hamstrung. I think that on both sides, if they can agree on a number, that they would both would be open to getting something done.
Yeah. So I think 4 for 60 right now seems like, wow, that's a lot of money or not a lot, but that's significant money to commit to Nasir Little. But if you look at the back half of
cap is going to go up,
the back half of that contract, if you're paying a guy who you think is a NBA starter $15 million a year, that's basically free. That's like going to be the mid-level exception.
That's what a mid-first round pick is going to be on the rookie scale.
That is. So like, that's why I think there's a chance that Nas's people are like, nah, we want 4 for 80. We want Keldon Johnson money or whatever it is. Even though Keldon's been way more productive than Nas to date. He's just he's been better in the league. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe that number is 75 million, like maybe that's the range where it is. But I think there could be a reason. There could be a number that makes sense for both sides. I know, sometimes guys who've had an injury history, they just want to lock it up, get the money and keep it moving, stay in the league, make sure you're in the league. I think and
especially a guy like Nas, who like his ceiling is a high level role player.
Yeah. The 4th best player.
Nobody thinks he has star potential. And I think he's a self-aware enough guy that he knows that. So it's not like I don't think he would go into it thinking, if I play out this season, have a good year, somebody's going to give me a max. I don't think he really has any delusions about that. So I think if there's an offer that both sides think is reasonable, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but I would say it's more likely than not. Like I would even go like 51-49. Like it's close.
Wow.
But like I would actually, if I had to guess yes or no, do they get something done before the extension deadline? I actually might slightly lean yes.
A slight lean yes, folks. I'd probably slight lean no. So I like that. I like it. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar, best tasting protein bar that there is. Don't go looking for a better one. You're not going to find it because Built Bar packs the perfect combination of real deal protein. Now, on average, 17 grams of protein, which is 140 calories, and 4 grams of sugar and 4 net carbs. Plus, they taste great. They're covered in chocolate. They got this candy bar-like feel. So they pick you up, give you a little shot to your blood sugar, get you going if you need a workout, you need a snack, you just need to get going and record a long podcast with Sean Highkin, whatever it might be. They taste great. They got some fuel you can use. So why don't you go to Built.com right now, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your next order of whatever flavor you're looking for. They got new ones all the time and some staples that I love. That's Built.com and the promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off. All right. I'm going to drop you back into more of my conversation with Sean Highkin. What does the rotation look like beyond the starters? If it's Dame, Ant, Nas, Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic, Josh Hart's going to play. Gary Payton's going to play. What does the last couple spots look like in your mind right now?
I think Josh Hart's going to be the first off the bench.
Absolutely. He's going to play a bunch of minutes. Yeah.
He's the only, and he told us he was one of the only a couple of players that they made available at exit interviews. And he said that they told him that his role is going to be, being the lead ball handler for the second unit, which makes the most sense for him to be in that role, just given his skill set and the lack of, other guys who have that skill set.
Who can dribble. Yeah.
Yes. So I think you're right about 6 and 7 being what they are. I kind of think Trendon Watford is going to be the 8th guy.
Ahead of Justice Winslow.
Well, it all just depends on, because I'm just thinking of like there's a clear, all of these other guys, like I think, like Justice Winslow is going to get in there. Jabari Walker, even I think I might actually earn more minutes than people expect. But like all those guys are kind of interchangeable. But when you look at where they actually like clearly need, somebody needs to be the backup center.
And that's probably Trendon Watford?
That's probably Trendon Watford based on just, that's how I would guess that would go.
Yeah, some nights it'll have to be Drew Eubanks just because they're going to need size.
Yeah.
But yeah, my guess, so as I penciled out here, Hart, GP, Justice, Trendon Watford, that's your 9. If they go 10, it's Eubanks. And at some point, Jabari Walker sneaks into the back half of that rotation. And if they really want to, they'll figure out how to get Shaedon Sharpe on the court with the second unit.
Right. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah. Can Trendon Watford play backup center in the league?
In some lineups he can, I think. I mean,
yeah.
It's interesting because for such a long, basically since the Warriors whole thing started, there's been like all you've heard is, well, the center is being phased out. This is a small ball league, but now it's starting to go sort of back the other way.
There's certainly some bigs you need to guard.
You look at but also you look at the way some teams are building, like Minnesota obviously just went all in on having 2 bigs. Cleveland had some success last year with playing 3, Markkanen, Allen, and Mobley together at various points.
With Kevin Love off the bench. They're just gigantic.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say if there's one weakness that this roster has, and I even think that Joe Cronin would probably agree with me.
100% he would agree.
He's made some comments about how he knows the roster isn't fully balanced. You have to, if you're playing a team where they have, you're playing a Minnesota where they have Gobert and Towns together, and you have to have 2 big guys to, put on the floor with them. You have to be able to do that. And I don't know if Trendon Watford, as much as like they can say all they want about like the mentality that he has and like, he plays, they say the same thing about him that they have said about like Josh Hart and Gary Payton, that he plays bigger than his size. You can say that, but at a certain point, he's not actually that size.
Yeah, and he doesn't protect the rim very well. He's strong.
They have no rim protection outside of Nurkic. Like Drew Eubanks is athletic. He's not a rim protector.
Yeah, it's going to be Naz's development and Jeremy Grant hopefully cleaning some of that up, because I think Grant's going to play some backup 5 minutes as well. They've said that as much. I'm not guessing.
They're going to have to piecemeal that together. I
think,
or like find someone on the minimum or somebody.
Yeah,
which might happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they have another 2-way spot open. I think it would be criminal if they don't sign a tall person with that.
I don't have anything for you on that. I don't know who they're looking at or when that.
Yeah, but if they do add another 2-way spot, which they absolutely should for competitive reasons, and that person is shorter than 6'9", that's a free podcast for me. That's just a free episode of
you gotta be like secretly rooting for that for the content.
Yeah, but if they go the other way, I'll just celebrate. I'll just bring out the pom-poms and be like, hey, they did it. But if they don't, then that's like 25.
They could also just cut somebody. Like nice guy. I don't think Didi Louzada is an NBA player.
No, absolutely not.
If they needed to create a roster spot, they have options.
The problem is that they're like $1.5 million into the luxury tax. And if they cut him, they don't have a chance to sneak away his cash in, like throwing him as another part of a trade in the future. So we'll see what their motivations are around the tax line when we get a little deeper into the season, because depending on how competitive they are, that might inform the people who cut the checks on how much, also
who is the one cutting the checks. That's the other thing.
100%. And how much has Joe Lacob spent, and because it was like $11 million windfall for the non-tax teams from the tax-paying teams. If Lacob is paying $200 million in taxes, it's really enticing for teams close to that line to say, hey, let's get under, because he's just going to give us $10 million. It's how billionaires do it, baby. They're good at making money.
Mm-hmm.
I think we agree on how it'll shake out. I think the Eubanks thing is questionable. I think the size, just general size. Is Jabari Walker going to play? Like you said, he might play more than people think. Where does he fit in?
I actually think he will figure out a way to get, like, I see him as this year's, like, there's always, every year there's like a 2nd round pick that nobody saw coming that gets real minutes on a good team because he's able to, be a role player and, find ways to be effective. Like last year it was Herb Jones with New Orleans.
Right.
If you want to tell me that this year Jabari Walker is the Herb Jones of this draft class, like I think that is something that I could see happening.
Yeah.
we were around him a lot. He was mainly, now that Shaedon Sharpe was injured.
He was the guy in Summer League, yeah.
He was the guy we talked to a lot in Summer League, and he said something that I thought was super, super insightful and also just an impressive level of self-awareness to have for a 19-year-old, which was that, so his, obviously most of your listeners know this, his dad is Samaki Walker, who had like a 10-year career in the NBA and was basically also a role player, glue guy type of guy, and had a pretty good long career doing that, and was on
won championships with the Spurs and the Lakers.
And he was saying that he thinks it was sort of to his advantage that his dad had a long NBA career where he was never a star, because his dad taught him to embrace being a role player. And so I think just that mentality and that self-awareness at that young of an age, and, knowing Chauncey to the extent that I do, he's the exact kind of guy that Chauncey likes. And so I think that Chauncey will, if there's any opening for it at all, I think Chauncey will be very open to the idea of throwing him out there and seeing what he can do. And I get the sense that when he does get thrown out there, he's going to find ways to stay on the floor. The rebounding is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chauncey Billups was the guy who leapfrogged Trendon Watford into the lineup. They had a foul trouble, and he leaned down the bench and said, "Trendon, you're going to play." And I was sitting on press row like, Trendon Watford, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, Trendon Watford's like earning an NBA contract. Like, Chauncey will see it, and he's comfortable playing young guys. That's
the biggest clue, I think. You just brought up Trendon earning and getting an NBA contract, getting his contract converted. The Blazers easily could have just, he's the 57th pick in the draft. They could have easily just given Jabari the other two-way slot.
100%.
But they went to the step of using part of the mid-level exception and using their last actual roster spot to give him a real NBA contract. Like, to me, if they thought, oh, this guy's just not going to play at all this year, then they would have done the Trendon Watford thing where you give him a two-way spot, and then if he earns it, you can convert his contract later. The fact that they already did it like 3 games into Summer League, to me, says he's going to have a real shot to earn.
Yeah, that they saw him play and they said, "Oh no, this dude's an NBA player. Let's make sure he's part of our program." Yeah, exactly. Thanks again to Sean for joining the program this week. If you missed the first part of my conversation with Sean, it is available in your feeds right before this one. And Sean's going to come back to end the week for Friday's show, so make sure you check back for that one. We're going to play a game, over-unders, and it's a whole bunch of fun. So join us for that one. I appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you soon.